Peace, good afternoon. Thank you for stepping into the Foul Player Land. As always, I'm your Foul Player. I want to make another boxing video regarding the new chapter of the Errol Spence, Terrence Bud Crawford drama that's been happening for the better part of 3 years, maybe, possibly more. You now have a statement made on social media. I'm not sure which avenue or as to which site, before somebody comes on my comment section and said, oh, he didn't say that there, like he said that here. I mean, the rumor is, I guess, if that clears it up better, is that Errol Spence is now threatening to offer 70-30 or perhaps 80-20, with him getting the bigger end to Terrence Bud Crawford. Now, we all know that Errol Spence has commented that he would give 60-40 to Bud Crawford. I mean, nothing in the way of like a formal offer, which happens all the time with boxing negotiations. But now that number or that percentage keeps going down. And Bud Crawford was resolute in not wanting to accept the 60-40 split. So, I mean, like, you know, when you bring that number down, you're pretty much trying to garner a reaction in Errol Spence from Bud Crawford that he'll automatically not accept the fight. And quite frankly, I'm becoming disenfranchised with this whole situation anyway. I've said it for the better part of a year that that fight's not going to get made. And I'll follow it up with saying, like, Errol Spence is the biggest holdup in not making this fight. Errol Spence is the one that's coming out with all these demands. I mean, like, you know, if you think about it, there's no other fighter in boxing, with the exception of Anthony Joshua when it came to Deontay Wilder. And that was back, you know, a couple years ago, that's making demands of, you know, the guy who everybody wants him to fight the most. Then Errol Spence is to Bud Crawford. You didn't hear Errol Spence making all these crazy demands of Sean Porter, and he gave Sean Porter a better split than what he offered to Errol Spence. I mean, to Bud Crawford. And the thing is that, you know, Errol Spence isn't like a big seller like that. I mean, people want to say, oh, well, like, you know, he sold 300 pay-per-views against Danny Garcia. No, he didn't. I highly doubt that, and he sold past 200,000 pay-per-views for that fight. All these PPC numbers that have been coming out of late, as far as their pay-per-views go, like sales, are bogus. I could put my bottom dollar on it if I had to. I mean, if somebody wanted to make a bet where they get tangible proof of how many of these numbers were sold, and not some Keith, whatever his name is, the guy that does writing for Yahoo News, reporting the numbers, then you know, we could make a bet. I'll throw 50% of the money up against your 100. I mean, or 100% of the money up towards your 50. That these PVC numbers don't sell like that. Nobody was talking about Danny Garcia fight with Errol Spence because it didn't have to be made. That was made into a mandatory after Danny Garcia jumped into the ring, like, and that just shows that PVC pulled some strings. The same thing with the Ugas fight. I mean, especially if they try to charge pay-per-view for an Ugas fight, I mean, people should be up in arms. I mean, like, you know, the biggest PVC apologists should be up in arms about a Ugas fight. That's another whack fight, you know. But you know, as boxing fans that want to draw the line as to who they cheer for and who they're gonna not cheer for, or what camps they like and what camps they don't like, you know, then we're gonna keep getting treated like this, and people are gonna lose interest in the sport, i.e. me. You know, I can't stand boxing anymore. And you know, when people bitch about like Canelo being the top dog, it's because you prop him up to be the top dog. You know, like, you would trip over yourself to try to make a Canelo fight or to try to make a Pacquiao fight, you know, when you should be fighting each other and get the allure off of those guys. You know, you should fight Bud Crawford, or Bud Crawford should fight Errol Spence, and I don't absolve Bud Crawford all the blame in this situation either. But you guys should be fighting each other and, like, you know, get the light off of these other guys like Canelo and like Pacquiao and even Anthony Joshua, if you will. I mean, like, you know, but you guys gonna keep pussyfooting around each other. In the case of Errol Spence, rushing towards a Ugas fight that doesn't have to be made, since Ugas won that belt for no reason, really. I mean, like, and then asking fans to pay for the benefit of watching these whack ass fights that, I mean, quite frankly, would a Ugas versus Errol Spence fight make it to HBO like prime time, like in back in the day? Like, I mean, like, and maybe, but it wouldn't be pay-per-view. And nobody would talk about that fight 10 years ago in the midst of like Mayweather fighting and Pacquiao fighting. Nobody would talk about a Ugas versus Errol Spence fight 10 years ago. Come on. And it's not like 10 years ago was some golden age of boxing. It's just a golden age compared to the shitty boxing that we have now. But if boxing, you know, wraps it up and calls it a day, I wouldn't even like cry about it. I guess I'm getting older and becoming interested in other things, like, you know, but boxing doesn't get my attention any longer. And it's not like I've shifted over to the UFC, because, I mean, like, you know, it's not my cup of tea either. But, you know, when boxing fans cry about the UFC, you know, pilfering fans, you know, it's shit like this. I mean, like, how long have we been waiting for Bud Crawford against Errol Spence to happen? And we keep saying, oh, 2020 is going to be made. 2020 is come and gone. And now we're getting deep into 2021. And Errol Spence, the A-side, like, amongst all this, is being a bitch. Straight up. Like, I mean, and I don't know how people don't see it. Like, you know, and I don't know how you defending, like, Errol Spence is gonna make him take tougher fights. I mean, like, you guys are acting like the last dude in the Errol Spence entourage. You guys would be the ones that are, like, you know, cleaning Errol Spence's shoelaces in jail. Like, come on, man. Like, you know, like, a lot of boxing fans are disgusting me of late too. Oh no, you know, he should take 40%. Like, I mean, like, you know, if I were to tell you, you know, like, and I use this analogy, I'll give you a ride, but when we get to my car, you better open the door for me. It's not a big deal for you to open the door for me. It's not going to cost you anything. But it's disrespectful for me to ask you, like, to, you know, open the door for me. And a proud man, like, would say, go fuck yourself. Like, you know, I'm not opening the door for anybody. But you guys, like, cheer on, like, some pussy, like, in Errol Spence, you know, saying, oh, well, 70-30, and you better mess around and, like, you know, better be 80-20. And you guys like, oh shit, yeah, but Bud Crawford, you better stop, you know, like, and calling Bud Crawford all sides, you know, like, all types of shit. Like, you know, you guys act like, and another thing too, people act like Bud Crawford wants to be under the thumb of Bob Arum. Bob Arum's trash. I'm the biggest person in the front of the Bob Arum's piece of shit train. But you guys act like Bud's like some sort of proud slave or some shit, man. Like, I mean, I'm done with boxing, bro. Like, to hell with boxing. I mean, I don't listen to hardly any boxing talk unless it's my people's. Unless it's like 503 or Stay Ready or Lois Dawkins or Michael Johnson. Like, you know, I'm done with boxing talk, or Lion Killer. You know, like, and what gets me disenfranchised with that is the whole business side of boxing. I mean, like, you know, and these dudes aren't even caking it like that, bro. I probably see more bread than like or in a few years I'll be, you know, probably overcoming like some of these mid-level boxers or mid-tier boxers, like, you know, or this is a nice fight type boxers. Like, you know, these dudes are like thousandaires, and or if not by 2021, by 2031 they're gonna be thousandaires. You know, these dudes are ass. I'm starting to like laugh at the fact that these dudes end up broke. You know, all these guys, like, you know, like that are in the, like, that are fighting now, by 2035 they're gonna be broke. They're gonna be like showing up like with PetSmart shirts that they found somewhere, like in interviews, with shit that doesn't fit them no more, living on somebody's couch. I guarantee it. Like, these are these dudes that are like driving these rental cars today with their Gucci purses. Like, you know, come, and you're already seeing it. I mean, I don't gotta like front, like AB made more money than all these dudes for the most part, and he's bumming it out. Like, you know, or you can't tell me that Errol Spence is gonna be, I mean, that Adrian Broner is gonna be caking it up like come 2030. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you know, these dudes that made far less money for him and act like 1,000 times more hoish, you know, are gonna be in the same boat, if not worse. And when that happens, I'm gonna be laughing. Like, you know, I'm not gonna give these dudes respect just because they laced them up. You know, because at the end of the day, like this era of boxing is gonna be the downfall of boxing. So I'm gonna laugh like when they see, and that's everybody. I mean, Bud Crawford included. Even though, like, I think Bud Crawford has his head on a little bit more straighter because he's more domesticated and has more of a family life, or is more of a family man than a lot of these other, like, spicy-ass dudes. But when all these dudes see their downfall, like, fiscally, I mean, I'll be there, like, to laugh it up at them. Like, you know, because these dudes act like that, you know, you could just tell that a lot of these guys, they're not really, like, from the streets, or they never really came up poor. Or that they really like wanted it like that, like as far as boxer goes, like as far as boxing legendary status goes, they just, you know, got convinced that they could just, you know, take on like the least amount of risk and like, you know, for the most amount of money, and that's good for them to a degree, but at the end of the day, that hurts the sport. And ultimately, like, I'm gonna be cheering at the finish line when it hurts them too. So let me know what you guys think, man. Like, fuck Errol Spence. Like, this dude's trash. I've been saying, like, Errol Spence. I mean, like, this dude's nobody special. Don't, you know, you can't tell me anything that Errol Spence does that's, like, legendary or, like, and, like, you know, not even the body attack that everybody overrates, because he barely, he's losing that, like, too, especially with better competition. Like, Errol Spence hasn't had a great fight ever, period. I don't care what you say. Him beating Porter was not a great fight. Porter got beat. Him beating Mikey Garcia was not a great fight. Mikey Garcia was undersized. I don't care how many tickets he sold to either one of these events, because there weren't many, you know. And it wasn't on. And if he did, it wasn't on his back. It was on Mikey Garcia's back. That's the only event that he had that was like a somewhat A-list event in this era only, because that wouldn't be a C-level event in 2005. Fuck Errol Spence, bro. Like, this dude's trash. I can't stand this dude. I can't stand dudes like him. You know, period. You know, like the whole gloaty type, like, you know, I'm shitting on dudes. You know, those are the dudes that get robbed. Like, period. And I know, like, that car accident he had in was probably some suspect shit. He probably was getting run down by some real dude, and he skated out of there. Like, and he probably wasn't even that drunk. He was probably in the club, and dudes probably gave him the spooky eye, and he probably dipped. Like, that's probably how this happened. But dudes are scared to death, man. And he was holding. You know, like, that just showed you what kind of dudes these dudes are. These dudes, like, you know, and you over here popping up in clubs that, like, or strip clubs that are hood, like, you know, where goons lie, and, like, you know, and you think you're among them because, like, you know, you may have one or two dudes that you think do some goony shit, and that you're part of that class. You're a chump at the end of the day. And it, you know, I don't applaud no goony shit. Like, you know, but I shit on dudes that try to act like they're, you know, from the slum, or like from, you know, from the dirt, and have now made it. You don't act like you're from the dirt and you've now made it. You act like you came up quite comfortably and now you have money. So, I mean, and I'll say that to his face, bro. Like, you know, like that's, you know, like, these dudes are nobodies to me, bro. Like, little guys. You know, to hell with all these dudes, man. Like, you know, I wish I could, like, you know, when I go to these events in Barclays that I would run into, and I'd be solely dolly, bro. I don't, like, you know, I don't go, like, entouraged out, like, you know, and hold me to it, I guess. Like, fucking, if you ever bump into me, like, you know, these dudes are clowns, bro. I can't stand none of these boxers, bro. To hell with all of them. Fuck boxing. With that, I'm out.